baby sister, first son, my first nephew, who I was very, very close to. But what I like to do, which is a little not normal for me, because I normally just speak from my heart, which I am going to do, but I wanted to share some definitions with you because we heard the word white supremacy mentioned, and this was not rehearsed, but I'm giving a confirmation to what our brother was just talking about. So if you can just give me a second to read this, I think it'll be of tremendous value to all of us. So when I thought about this, I asked myself, building a movement for justice, there was two questions that came to my mind. What is building a movement for justice? Why build a movement for justice? White supremacy. And I'm using academic use of the term white supremacy so we all can understand what it is first. The term white supremacy is used in academic studies of racial power to denote a system of structural racism which privileges white people over others regardless of the presence or absence of racial hatred. By white supremacy, I do not mean to allude only to self-conscious racism or white supremacist hate groups. I refer instead to a political, an economic, and cultural system in which white overwhelmingly control power and material resource. Conscious and unconscious idea of white superiority and an entitlement are widespread, and the relations of white dominance and non-white subordination are daily reenacted across a broad array of institutional or institutions and social settings. So we need to be clear and have a better understanding of white supremacy and what it is and why we must combat this issue. Because here's a couple of effects of it that mainly pertains to people of color first. Internalized racism. Now what is that? Is the acceptance by members of racially stigmatized people of negative perception about own abilities and strength at work, characterized by low self-esteem of others like themselves. This racism can manifest itself through embracing whiteness, such as stratification by skin color in non-white communities, self-devaluation, such as racial slurs, nicknames, rejection of ancestral culture, and resignation, hopelessness, and helplessness, basically meaning dropping out of school, failing to vote, engaging in health risk practices. And what my wife and I coin when we go around to different universities and we talk about what's needed in our community, of course the brown community and other communities of color, but specifically for the black community, is black love, black family, black unity, which means black power.
That's right.
Now the other part of that is the institutionalized racism. Now what is that? For instance, restrictive housing contracts, bank lending policies have also been listed as a form of institutionalized racism. Other examples are racial profiling by security guards and police.
Don't forget the police.
Stereotype racial distortions such as an Indian mascot.
Okay.
The under and misrepresentation of certain racial groups in mass media and race-based barriers to gainful employment and professional advancement. Additionally, differential access to goods, services, and opportunity of society can be included within the term of institutionalized racism, such as unpaid streets, roads, inherent socioeconomic disadvantages. And to bring about that change, I have here revolution will break the embracing of whiteness.
That's right. We need a revolution.
Okay, so what is building a movement for justice? I believe it is a movement by any means necessary to achieve justice. As our brother talked about Emmett Till, we could talk about Sean Bell, we could talk about Oscar Grant, Trayvon Martin. Sadly but true, we have seen justice come only by way of our willingness to die for justice, equality, and freedom. Study the history of our struggle here in the U.S., where we are in a psychological warfare, and I say that so that we have to be clear to understand how this psychology is being played on us. Psychological manipulation is a type of social influence that aims to change the perception or behavior of others through underhanded, deceptive, and even abusive tactics. And I'm going to stop there and go on to talk about Trayvon Martin and Oscar Grant, because if we do a comparison analysis, we can come to some conclusions about what's really happening that we may not see on the surface. My wife and I went down to Florida as the big rallies and protests was happening, got to meet the family, the attorney, and of course the community. And I'm going to tell you, if we analyze what happened here with Oscar Grant and what happened with Trayvon Martin, we can even begin to adjust this justice for movement by understanding the tactics that are best suitable to work. For example, what happened here with Oscar Grant was strictly grassroots. As you know, the community came together.
That's right.
Sale of people from all over the Bay Area.
That's right.
Even in Los Angeles, the state of California, went into discussion on how to deal with what we saw was a murderous act by a white police officer and the continuation of police brutality happening in our community. Had it not been for the video, so let's be clear.
Come on.
We wouldn't even know who Oscar Grant is.
That's right.
So my family, myself, we owe much love to you, the community.
Woo!
Cell phones,
Yeah.
and begin to videotape that wrong. We are our brother's keeper.
That's right.
These cell phones are powerful. As you know, many states now
Passing the law.
passing legislation to prohibit you to use your cell phone in filming police officers in their commission of duty.
That's right.
So we have to be conscious. Your students here, be aware that when this issue hit the state of California, that we have to beat it down.
That's right.
Just like Stand Your Ground is already in 22 states. It's on its way here.
That's right.
So we as students that are politically conscious must beat it down.
That's right.
Because this is the type of psychological warfare that's taking place. Legislation is being passed
Oh, sorry.
that are handcuffing us to our ability to even get any form of justice.
That's right.
So when I say it was grassroots here, there, which is different, if you notice, it initially started out grassroots, but a lot of well-known political figures got involved. As you know, many prominent people in the music industry, of course in media and what have you, are all now been speaking to this issue. But is it really going to address the true issue of the institutionalized racism that is happening in this racist criminal justice system? Just because we get an arrest
Don't mean
does
nothing.
not mean we will get a conviction.
That's right.
That's right.
Let's be clear about that. Here's some real eerie similarities that I got out of this. Oscar and his friends were detained because they looked suspicious by Tony Peroni. Trayvon Martin, as you know, looked suspicious to George Zimmerman. Oscar and his friends were wearing black t-shirts and hoodies. Trayvon Martin, as you know, was wearing a hoodie. Oscar was talking on the phone to his girlfriend before he was brutally murdered.
Why he was
As we know, Trayvon Martin was talking on his phone to his girlfriend before he was brutally murdered. Tony Peroni called Oscar bitch-ass nigga 2 times before he was thrown to the ground and murdered. And as we know, George Zimmerman himself also used racial epithets, stereotyping. There was 600 pounds of police officer on Oscar's back. As we know, George Zimmerman is about 100 pounds heavier than Trayvon Martin. Chief G of the BART Police Department resigned. Chief Lee of the Stanford Police Department steps to the side. Tom Orloff, Alameda County District Attorney, head, basically retired.
early.
State
Had to.
District Attorney of Seminole County in Florida,
Remove himself.
Wuppinger, steps to the side. I mean, the similarities, and I could go on and on and on, but the real essence about all this is that is when they get to court, what will they deal with? And if I can give some snippets, quickly on what we experience in the court criminal justice system, you understand this call out for why a movement must take place, and not that it only just pertains to the criminal justice system, but all areas where white supremacy is so prevalent when it comes to institutionalized racism.
That's right.
Our first day in court, the judge told us, all you people you see outside, I'll make this case last 5 years or longer till all of you go away.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first day in court.
That's right. That's what he said.
The jury came back of his peers, because there was no people of color on that jury, found him guilty of involuntary manslaughter and guilty under gun enhancement. The judicial figure, Judge Robert Perry, decided to tell us that I made a judicial error by my instruction to the jury, and therefore I'm going to throw away the gun enhancement. The gun enhancement was a semi-victory because we knew a prison term would have been given. By him taking it off the table,
that's right, he walked.
It gave him the ability to give Johannes Besley 2 years with time served when he only did 11 months.
In county jail, not prison.
Right, and let's be clear, it was in county jail, basically by himself, no type of, I mean, you can imagine what kind of privileges he got.
That's
and
right.
As he exited jail, he went on what you call non-revocable parole. If you're not familiar with what that is when you actually get out, you go on non-revocable parole, you don't have to report to a probation officer. You don't have all these requirements. You can live where you want, go where you want. Family can't restrict you in their radius. In other words, we could have restricted him if he had been a felon, but because he's not, or put it this way, he's only a felon for a year's time. And then once that drops off, he's entitled to go back and work for the police force, any police force in the United States. You know, I mean, I could go on. The criminal justice system, when it comes to police in the state of California, does not allow you to look into police records. He had a history, just like George Zimmerman, of confrontation with African young men. He had 4 confrontations before he murdered Oscar. 145 days before he murdered Oscar was Kenneth Carruthers, who many of you might have saw on the news that he had beat down with other officers. Went through a civil suit, and actually won that civil suit because, again, the technology that we have with cameras, 7 cameras on that one spot, they all turned up missing.
That's right.
So it was the
Not a
policeman's
one.
word of mouth of what happened versus his alone. And of course, it made it look like the jury, that it was just an angry black man.
They sure did.
You know, so, I mean, I can go on and on and on, but what I want to say to you, especially the men that are out here, we have to really find in our spirit of love for our females and our families.
Yeah, protect them.
I mean,
That's right. It's
today,
your job.
I know I would die for my mother. I would die for my sister, my baby sister, and I'm willing to die for the sake of another teary-eyed mother that loses a son wrongfully to these racist police officers. We gotta feel that. We gotta mean that. Because until we feel it and mean it, there won't be no change. And we gotta be vocal about it. We gotta come out. We gotta speak to this injustice. We gotta come out as one family with one goal, and that is a total change of this heinous racist system that we've been dealing with for years. So I want to commend all of you for being here, for allowing us to share our hope and belief that a change will come. But it's going to really be dependent on you, because if you don't do nothing now,
Your children.
what will your children be able to do?
That's right. They'll
What
be
will they
experiencing the
experience?
same thing. Same
It's
thing.
in hell right now.
That's right.
Think about them.
That's right.
I get really emotional when I get into this because it's so painful to see mothers crying of a wrongful act. But it's going to take us becoming emotional about it. We got to feel it. what's happening is we becoming so callous to it that we don't even feel it. So we just go on like nothing's wrong.
Come on, teach.
And as we walk like nothing is happening, more and more laws are being passed.
That's right.
We're taking more and more our rights away.
That's right.
Totally enslaving us to a system of injustice. And it's not until we say no more, no more, no more.
More.
No more.
So I want to give a shout out to Emmett Till. Ashe. I want to give a shout out to Malice Green.
Say.
Say.
A shout out to Sean Bell.
I say.
Amadou Diallo.
I say.
Say.
Derek Jones.
Yeah, I say.
Kenneth Hardy.
Yeah, I say.
James Riviere.
Yes,
Say.
say.
Oscar Grant.
Say.
And of course, our beloved young brother who has really put this in motion, Trayvon Martin.
Say.
Romero Graham.
Oscar was visual, Trayvon Martin's audio. If we fail to give justice with the visual like we did, let's be clear, we only made history. Joe Henderson was the first officer in the state of California to have been charged and the first officer in the state of California to be convicted. And yet, he got out in 11 months.
That's right.
We failed in our pursuit of justice. We just made history.
That's right.
Trayvon Martin has an opportunity to bring justice. Right. And as you see all across the country, many of people are speaking to this issue, but let's do not be tricked by the psychological warfare that's going on that is designed to break this up, to infiltrate, to make it appear that justice has been given when it really hasn't. So let's do not be fooled. Let's rally, protest, and do whatever it takes to bring about the justice that we want in our community. So thank you and much love to all of you.
Again, I would like to thank Dr. Voodoo and Uncle Bobby for